School ends like 3 weeks later, and I immediately take my actors and go to France. Because we were performing in a theater festival. So I took a bunch of actors, many of whom were the Amy's here actors, and left to go to France. Amy and I had seen each other a couple of times. We'd gone to breakfast, we'd gone to dinner. We got, I drove down to Philly one weekend after the show was over. But it was not, hot and heavy. But it was very strange because it felt like it should be, which is the weird part. But we were still dealing with, I'm Michael Bergman and she's Amy Grosky, and this is not going to work. So I went to France.
So I went to France.
That's where you go to forget.
Yeah.
We're in France. We're in a chateau because that's where they put us up at this festival. And I decided I want to call Amy and ask her to marry me from France.
Aww.
The only problem is...
You've had like 4 dates or something.
The only problem is the students are around. Peeking around the corners. Amy's here. Is that Amy on the phone? So I decided I can't do this. I can't do this with the kids there because that's going to kill it. As it turns out, our friend MJ is at her house. Now, what I find out is I don't ask her to marry me on the phone. We just kind of talk about stuff. And then we get off the phone. And then I find out that she, right after the phone call, turns to MJ and says, I'm angry. I thought he was going to ask me to marry him.
Psychic.
Whoa.
But whatever.
Important distinction.
So, airport on the way home. I'm at Orly Airport waiting to come home. And I go and buy a bottle of Perrier-Jouet champagne and 2 matching hand-painted glasses. Amy's picking me up at, once we get back from the airport to the school, Amy's picking me up at the school, and we're driving back to my mom's house because I'd given up my apartment because I was changing jobs. So I get to the school with my bottle of champagne and 2 glasses, and who's there? My mother.
Oh, that's
good.
Now I love my mother, but not enough to marry her.
Oh, Mom.
So
Not for you.
turns out Amy had an acting gig that got postponed, so she wasn't there to pick me up. My mom was. And she was going to come the following morning. She had this acting gig in Connecticut because she was an actress. She was trained as an actress. So anyway, we had been joking in our brief time together about how weird it would be if we ever got married because we had all these friends who didn't even know we were dating. I actually had only met her parents once, 9 years before, when I found out after the fact that her mother said to her, why can't you marry a nice boy like Michael Bergman? So, 9 years before. So anyway, Amy shows up at like 9 o'clock in the morning. We're hanging out. We're joking around. I told her, ages before, I told her that I wanted to get married in a Spider-Man costume. A whole other story. You don't even want to go there.
Did you?
Upside down. Upside down.
That's a whole other story. So we're joking around about this wedding thing, and she says to me, I'm feeling really uncomfortable about this. I don't like joking around about it anymore. If it's real, it's real, and if it's not, let's not make any jokes about it. So I said, okay, that's fine. And then about 10 minutes later, I made another joke about it.
Good job.
Uh-oh.
So she said, I asked you not to do that unless it's real. And I said, well, do you want to get married? And she said, to you? Like I was asking a generic. And I said, yes.
To at some point, hypothetically, become married to someone.
So I said, yes, to me. And she thought about it for a second, and she said, ask me again. So I did. And she said yes, and then she started to cry. And then I broke out the Perrier-Jouet, and then she told me that she had told MJ that she was really mad that I didn't ask her on the phone.
You're like, I was going to.
Then I went upstairs. My mom was asleep in the lounge chair watching some horrible movie. And I woke her up and I said, Mom, I just got engaged to Amy. And she said, that's nice, honey. And then Amy called her parents and said, guess what? I'm engaged. And her mother said, to who? I said, well, we'd only been dating for a very short period of time. And then we called my friend Nancy, our friend Nancy, who didn't even know we were dating. And Nancy just laughed hysterically and hung up on us.
And then Tammy came home.
That's a whole other story.
Oh.
Good to see you. Ooh.
Oh.
Where's the champagne?
Is this a wedding?
And then
Champagne.
and then that was on a Sunday. Monday afternoon, I left for summer camp.
Oh my God. Oh.
And that's the trick to a healthy marriage. You see each other maybe one day out of about, but that's it. So we got married the following March.
Oh.
And that was 1990. So
And we should
it's,
all go.
Oh, the
it's
year I was
19
born.
it's almost 20 years now.
Oh wow.
So, okay, but this is
Yay,
the reason why I even
cute.
started that story. It has nothing to do with the story. Here's the story.
You guys.
When I was at camp, and this is for the benefit of them. When I was at camp,
For the benefit of them.
I was so
It was all about
infatuated because we hadn't spent all that time together that I was, like, I set up a little shrine over my bed. It's the easiest way. They used to call it a shrine. I had a picture of her over my bed. I had a letter that she'd written to me. Right over where I slept in camp. You have to understand, it's camp. It's grimy bunks and
Yeah.
cold showers and whatever. Camp. It was the Amy Shrine. That's what my boys in my camp, my bunk used to call it, the Amy Shrine. And it was just like, my heart would beat faster when I looked at her picture.
Oh, that's so cute.
And the whole summer was like a blur because I lived from seeing her to seeing her. So she came up to visit once at camp, and the whole thing is it's not. It may be strange to you, and I really think that there is a weird kind of a misunderstanding in your generation that romance for the sake of romance is not cool, because I think there's a lot of sexual pressure on you guys. But I think there's something about being in love and not being sexually in love, but being in love that changes the way you deal with people. And the two of us were incredibly playful together. We were really silly. In fact, we still get that way. My children get embarrassed by us because we get silly sometimes. Because that's kind of what it's about. So that's what I need to see. The long way. That's what I need to see between the two of them. I don't want.
Samantha's like, oh God.
I don't want this feeling of like, oh, Timoon, baby. What there has to be is that sort of breathless in love, and I think that's really important because I think Daniel really loves her.
He just doesn't.
But he can't.
He's not awakened to the fact that he can't really follow through with that. Well, he
In
could.
the moment, he can't. In the moment, he can. In his head, he can. It's just that when reality sets in, he can't.